Good evening. I'm Anuj Mehrotra. I'm the Dean of the School of Business at the George Washington University, and I am delighted to welcome all of you to this episode of George Talks Business. And it is really my distinct pleasure to welcome our guest, Robin Hayes, CEO of JetBlue Air Corporation. Thank you very much for being here, Robin.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks for the invite. No, it's great.
Welcome. And we will be, by the way, taking some audience questions, although I have so many questions, I don't know how we'll get to it, but please do submit your questions via Pigeonhole using the QR code on the palm cards, and I will receive them on this iPad, so at some point you'll see me with 3 or 4 iPads on the same time. Don't get confused. So let me start. Let's jump in, Robin. Let me start by saying you are an engineer. You grew up in London. By the way, London has some best Indian food, and I love London for that reason. You went to University of Bath, which is an amazing, amazing city. If anybody has gone to London and not gone to Bath, that is a pity. I want to understand what sparked your interest in aviation. And really, I just want to understand what your career journey has been since graduation and all the way up now that you're CEO of JetBlue.
No, thank you, and good evening, everyone. So I studied engineering, as you said, and the thing about the UK, and maybe some are here from the UK, you actually have to decide when you're 16 what you're going to study. Because your last 2 years at high school, you have to take certain exams, because you specialize much more quickly. So, what 15-year-old knows what they want to do? I certainly didn't. And so I kind of picked engineering because I thought I could get a place. And so I did get into Bath, and I actually started in the defense business, and it consisted of sitting in a cold and wet field testing equipment that never worked. And so I thought, I'm just not really good at this, and I'm not really enjoying sitting in a wet field waiting for something to work. So instead, I decided to join an airline. And the inspiration for that was when I graduated, I actually spent a summer working in the United States. I got a job in Boston selling duty-free. Mm-hmm. And I used to have to go down to the gates, and you've seen those people handing out the stuff. And the British Airways crew were always the nicest to me, and sometimes they would make me tea. And so I thought I'd really like to work there. So anyway, I applied and I got a job. I started working in airports, and the rest is history. But I do have an advantage if I know how an airplane works. So that's definitely an advantage in this job.
Well, thank you for that. And I know you became CEO in 2015, and then very recently we have gone through a few years of very difficult times for CEOs, particularly I'm sure with COVID-19 pandemic. So I want to maybe if you take us back to that time when COVID-19 was hitting and how it hit the aviation industry, and in particular, from your lens as CEO, what kind of challenges did you face? And quite frankly, think about that and then say, what could you have done differently now that it is hopefully behind us?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, certainly for anyone in the airline industry, I would say the COVID pandemic was the biggest thing many industries had to deal with. But for a lot of industries, it was actually good news, at least for a while. But for airlines, it wasn't. And it happened very quickly. A brief story was, I was over in London in February meeting the CEO of Airbus, and we had a lunch planned, and we didn't talk about COVID. By the way, this is the middle of February, 2020, maybe early February. And, over kind of coffee, I said, hey, are you seeing any impact due to COVID? And because, there was kind of word out. And he said, yeah, some of our Chinese customers have sort of talked about delaying airplanes, but we don't think it's a big deal. Then I was on CNBC about a week later saying, oh, it's going to be fine. We don't expect there to be any impact. Well, oh my goodness. Within 2 weeks, bookings fell away 97%. And so I came down to DC actually with my colleague, other airline CEOs. And Doug Parker, who was the CEO of American at the time, he'd been through this with 9/11. He was the only one that was an airline CEO at the time. He said, we got to act quickly. We got to go to Congress. We got to get help because otherwise we're all going to go bankrupt in a matter of months. So we arranged for a meeting over at the White House with Mike Pence. And on the way over, we got a message that President Trump was going to be there. And we're like, oh, okay, what are we going to do with this? Anyway, we went over there, and as a result of that meeting and then a lot of work on the Hill afterwards, Airlines got they needed to, we basically got money to pay people to stay working as opposed to furloughing them. And it was a great arrangement.
Yeah. Wow. So I know there were so many things I could really actually have the conversation entirely on the COVID-19 response and what you went through. But we have something coming up, which is a government shutdown, which is a self-imposed disruption here. Yeah. How is this going to impact travel, and how, at least for us as passengers here on various planes here, how will we be impacted?
Well,
and I don't even begin to know how your industry itself will be impacted.
So let's, I'm still in the camp. There is not going to be a shutdown, but maybe it's a smaller camp than it was.
Jesse Jackson said, keep hope alive.
Anyway, so we'll see. If there is a shutdown, the good news is if you've got flights next week, you're not really going to notice. So the air traffic controllers, everyone on the operating side is deemed essential, and that will carry on. In our business, the things that get impacted by a shutdown are you can't register new airplanes, you can't finance airplanes, anything that needs a sort of a back office type function that you can't do. So hopefully there won't be a shutdown, but if there is, we should be okay.
All right, great. That's good to hear. When I met you first, you were talking to David Rubenstein in the Economic Club. And in that conversation, you mentioned that the airline industry is on a path to recovery.
Yeah.
What is the airline industry's status today? And what do you see are the trends in the horizon?
I think, let me start with the good news and then the bad news. The good news is the industry has recovered in terms of volumes. So people are back flying again. There are some changes. So business travel is still down, and it's not ever going to come back to as much as it was. People have learned to use Zoom and do things to sometimes supplement face-to-face meetings. But the flip side of that is there's been a lot of leisure demand. So that's a good thing. I think the challenge for airlines, though, is making money from that. I know everyone looks at the price of the ticket and feels tickets have gone up, but if you look at the average data compared to 2019, which was the last normal year in our industry, labor costs are up about 30%, fuel costs are up about 50%, and revenues are flat. So for airlines like JetBlue, who are focused more on sort of low-fare leisure type offerings, we haven't yet turned a profit. The airlines that are making money at the moment are the large legacy airlines because they still have their long-haul international business that is still doing well. But nearly $100 a barrel of fuel, it's a very big challenge.
Oh boy. So Robin, I was actually going to ask you about this question because the last 4 or 5 domestic flights that I have taken, and those were in the middle seat at the back of the airplane next to the bathrooms, were over $1,000.
Yeah.
And is this the new norm?
Well, you weren't flying JetBlue, were you?
No, I wasn't flying JetBlue on those flights, for sure.
But that's why you're paying $1,000 to sit in a bathroom.
Well, I'll come to that. But JetBlue must also face some of these problems which almost every airline would face, which are, airlines are a complex industry from where I sit, at least. When I look at it, it's like, it's in the restaurant business, it's in the operations business, it's in the finance business, it's in the merger and acquisition business, and we'll get to that part as well. Yeah. So it's a very complex business, almost, and the risk assessment in it, it's got so many industries intertwined into one.
Yeah.
Out of all of those, as a CEO, from your lens, what is the most challenging part of airline?
I think the thing about the airline industry is there's so much you don't control. You don't control the fuel price. You don't control the weather. The biggest issue in the US at the moment actually is the lack of air traffic controllers. In the New York area, only 54% of controller positions are staffed. Cancellations have been significantly up this year, both because of weather and also, staffing shortages. So that's been very frustrating. So I think those tend to be the hardest things. But having said that, for anyone who's thinking about a career in aviation, we have Drew and Rick, 2 people who have picked it. There's nothing more fun than what we do. It is the modern miracle that happens hundreds of thousands of times every day. That heavy airplane taking off, blasting into the sky, flying all the way around the world and landing, as if you just popped down to Starbucks for coffee. And it is a modern miracle, and it's so exciting still.
Yeah, it is. So, let me change gears a little bit and talk about what the overall airline industry, at least in the US, is, where there are 4 big airlines, the Delta, the United, the American, and the Southwest. And they are probably, if I'm not mistaken, probably 3 times the size of JetBlue in terms of overall volume that it does. So the question I have for you as CEO is that it is not always necessary to have more market share, but still to have a very distinctive brand.
Yeah.
And I would love for us to hear a little bit from your lens. What is JetBlue brand? How does it distinguish itself?
Yeah.
And do you have aspirations to have more market share, or are you happy where you are?
Well, it is a challenge competing with airlines that are 4 times your size. I mean, you mentioned who they were: Delta, American, United, Southwest. That's 80% of the market. The rest of us have 20% between us. Mm-hmm. So we're 5%, Alaska's 5%, Spirit's 4%. And that is a very, very big bifurcation of, the industry. And where that makes that hard is just the benefits of scale. We both spend the same on a website, yet they have 5 times more revenue to pay for it. And so that's got very difficult. And that's got, as these airlines have got bigger, that's been one of the biggest challenges the smaller airlines have. In terms of, how do we think about that as JetBlue? Well, what we say is we can't spread everywhere. So we are a quarter of the size of these guys. We have to focus it in a few markets. So we focus New York, Boston, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, San Juan, and a little bit in LAX. And let's try to be relevant and meaningful to customers there. And in terms of our brand, look, we offer the most legroom of any airline, free live TV, only airline offering free Wi-Fi in every flight. I know other airlines have said they're doing that, and they've started to do it, but we've been doing it for 10 years. And a real focus on our culture and our people. And it's a leadership team, and it's a group of crew members that are very, very hands-on. We clean airplanes, we go into the operation, Rick does a great job here in some of the barbecues that we do on Thanksgiving and other holidays for our crew members. So, like, if it's not a wood-paneled office at JetBlue. It's a desk and a phone, and you're lucky if you get both of them.
And I'll tell you, for those reasons, the Wi-Fi, the legroom, and whatnot, I encourage my daughters to take that JetBlue all the time. And that JetBlue is one of my daughter's favorite airlines for that reason.
I hope she's got the JetBlue credit card.
I think she does. Good. And I don't have to pay for it anymore, and that is wonderful. But let me ask you a different question. You mentioned about the size of the various airlines, where the big 4 have the 80% of the market, and the rest of the airlines, you have 5%, Spirit has 4%. Is that part of the rationale for trying to acquire or merge with Spirit Airlines? So I have 2 questions there. You mentioned also culture, that you have a very strong culture. And so first question I have is, why Spirit? Why not some other airline that you are trying to look at? And is the culture of Spirit and the culture of JetBlue very similar, that will make it easier? Because from what I understand, the biggest painful problem that mergers and acquisitions have is to be able to then unify the culture.
Yeah, that's true. And that is, no one ever thinks about that, and they stumble later because they didn't think about it.
I'm not going to charge you for this thought process.
But I think, so we've actually already spent a lot of time on this. We put an integration management team in place. We've been working on cultural initiatives right through to what words we're going to use, how we're going to get everyone on the same page. And we've done some very kind of, so JetBlue has a no furlough commitment. If you come to work for JetBlue, we will never lay you off because of economic factors. If you're not performing in your job, different thing. And even during COVID, we managed to keep that promise. And so when we looked to buy Spirit, we made the same commitment to the Spirit team. So again, I think those things are the little things you do at the beginning to build confidence and say, we want to do this together. Spirit has a different business model to JetBlue, but their people are as passionate about their culture as the JetBlue team are. A lot of their values are the same. So, there's a lot to do, but we'll go through it together. And I think there's great willingness from both teams to create this really amazing 5th airline, this national low-fare challenger to the legacy airlines.
Yeah. Well, that is impressive too, what your commitment to the employees is. That is amazing. And I don't know many, especially in the hospitality or travel industry, who can say that they were able to do that during COVID. So congratulations on that. But let me still, you chose a Spirit, and of course you are doing it with Spirit now. Where is this merger right now? What is holding it up? And why?
Well, in 3.5 weeks, we are going to begin our court case in the federal courthouse in Boston, Department of Justice versus JetBlue and Spirit. It's a 4-week court case. And just some background, the US government has never ever tried to stop any other airline merger except one, which was when US Airways and American merged, where they sued to block it, but then they settled. So, we are dealing with unprecedented circumstances, and even in the most concentrated airport, which will be Fort Lauderdale, we'll still have less than half the concentration that American has in Dallas or Miami or Delta in Minneapolis or Atlanta. So I think it's just this sort of concern about more mergers, full stop. But anyway, we feel good on our case, and if we win, then, and we hope we will win, the judge has, said there'll be a ruling, say by the end of this year, early next year, and then hopefully we can, begin the process of closing.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
And let me change gears just a little bit and try and, I've been looking at the web with every time. Aviation is also one of my favorite industries, by the way, and I just love to fly myself. I'm waiting for those double-decker designs. Are you familiar with those double-decker airplanes that are coming in? Is JetBlue going to be interested in those?
Well, we had the Airbus 380. That was a double-decker.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but those didn't really take off, if you forgive the pun. But yeah, they were massive airplanes. But I think that the problem with those really big airplanes is that there's only a small number of markets where it makes sense. I mean, you got 4 engines, which is twice as expensive than the 2 engines that most people fly on. What you're seeing grow now are the smaller airplanes that can fly far. The Airbus 350, the Boeing 787. Those tend to be the airplanes that people are buying. We don't have any of those. We are just like, short haul, now single aisle airplanes, although we do fly to Europe now, out of New York and Boston, and we do that with a sort of a narrow-bodied airplane, like a private jet.
Okay. Well, I heard that one of your new international routes is Paris.
Yes.
And is this a good time for me to invest in a ticket for my wife, or do you? But before I do that, let me ask you: do you provide vegan and vegetarian food on those international flights?
We do indeed. Okay. Yeah, we provide great food. Okay. And in fact, if you fly JetBlue to Europe and you're sitting in economy or coach or core, as we call it, you can customize the meal in the back of your seat, what you want, and then our crew will deliver it to you. Great. You'll also get free Wi-Fi and free TV across the Atlantic, which no one else does. So it's a pretty cool product.
Great. So
and that's what Drew does, by the way.
All right, great.
Who's one of your guys?
He is.
Yeah,
he's a good one.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question: are there any new destinations planned beyond this Paris? And what is your growth strategy for JetBlue?
What is the
growth strategy?
Growth strategy. Yeah. So we just started Amsterdam as well, and we are looking at a couple of new European markets for next year. And then in terms of growth, traditionally we've kind of grown about 6 to 8% a year. Big focus on international markets. One of the big challenges in our industry at the moment is supply chain constraints, and the engines, Pratt & Whitney engines that we have got some significant reliability issues. So we actually have 7 airplanes on the ground with no engines. And around the world, there are 100 of airplanes with no engines. And that's going to get worse into next year. So that's going to limit the amount of growth airlines like JetBlue can put into the market.
Great. So this particular question that has come in, it could have been coming in from my daughter, but it is coming from Andrew Flanagan. And he's asking about, do you ever see JetBlue entering the airport lounge market? That is the kind of question that my daughter would be asking for.
Yeah, that's a good question. By the way, in the old days, we used to put our hand up and ask the question, and now we have $1,000 iPads and QR codes. But are we going to be in the lounge business? So the answer to that is maybe. We do recognize for long-haul international travel, Lounges are, something that people have come to expect. The way we've always approached our business is it's about speed on the ground and it's about winning in the air. I mean, I was looking the other day on business class flights from New York to Heathrow. Before JetBlue was flying that, if you wanted a business class ticket a few days before departure, you'd be paying $10,000. That is $2,000 round trip now. So London fares have plummeted, and one of the ways we can keep those fares low, which forces other airlines to match us, is we're very careful about where we add cost. And you bring lounges in, that adds cost. It means you have to put the cost of that on the fare. Having said all of that, we recognize that's something we have to keep kind of thinking about. And it's very possible at one point JetBlue gets in the lounge business.
Right. So there's another question from Aiden. How does JetBlue's Mint product stand out among other domestic airline premium services? And to combine that question with mine, how did you create that Mint service? Did you have certain ways to be getting the customer insights, and how do you get those customer insights into the product?
Yeah, so we started looking at Mint domestically around 2011, 2012, and the thinking of Mint, by the way, is our sort of business class experience. And we said, look, it's what other airlines are flying is pretty bad, from JFK to LAX. We think we can do a better job. Convincing our board was the hardest thing because it was a big departure from JetBlue. JetBlue had always been a very egalitarian, would treat everyone the same type airline, and suddenly we were putting something that was very different. But we felt, we can disrupt this market, we can improve the experience, we can lower fares. So that's what we did. I think it stacks up as well, if not better than anybody else. I mean, we regularly win awards. We just won J.D. Power for the best business class again. And, people like the food because you don't have to pick one thing. You can pick 3 from 5 and they're like half plates. And we're not huge. We can go to boutique vineyards and buy some nice wine. I think across the Atlantic now with our new Mint, we have a new Mint product now, which isn't on that many airplanes yet, but it's coming. And again, Drew, who's one of your alumni here, has been front and center of this, and it's a great product. Private suites, large TVs, free Wi-Fi, free TV. You can watch Premier League soccer across the Atlantic. I think we do need a French TV station for France, though, Drew. I think we're going to continue to make sure we deliver the best product in the air.
Awesome, great. So you can tell a couple of questions coming from our students here. One, how do you attract employees to your company? How may someone seek an intro-level career with JetBlue? Some of these questions I hope an alum who will stay back to talk about some of these things can answer as well. And how has JetBlue, in terms of, the optimized forecasting processes post-COVID-19, demand and behavior? This is coming directly from a student, I can tell.
Okay, so the first question, how do you work for JetBlue? We are always hiring. My advice is don't wait for the perfect job. Like if you love I started in aviation, I jumped in, I worked in an airport. Then I was on a sales rep on the road. Like it took some time to kind of get to where I wanted to get to, but I just wanted to be in on the ground floor. We have great programs. You want to come and work at JetBlue, working at the airport, checking customers in. 2 years later, you want to train to be a pilot, we'll train you. If you want your family members to become pilots, we'll train them too. So we have a great sort of entry-level program. We hire a lot of graduates clearly as well in different positions. So we hire for attitude, and we can train the aptitude. And then the second question, optimized forecasting. I drive my team crazy with this. I feel that it's got a lot harder for us to forecast now. People come and say AI and machine learning, and we've got all these amazing things, and I look at the forecast and it's less accurate. So we've got work to do, but forecasting is a huge part of our role. We have whole teams of financial forecasters, revenue forecasters, data scientists that pore over this to get this right. But there's something since the post-COVID world, everything is harder to predict than it was before. And I don't know whether it's going to stay like that or go back, but everything is just, I think everything's just harder than it was. And we'll have a good revenue day, we'll have a bad revenue day. We'll have a good revenue day, a bad one. I kind of feel it didn't used to be like that.
So let me change questions a little bit, because as I was talking to you in the back room there, we had a business and policy forum on cybersecurity, and we are having another one in April, on April 2nd, on artificial intelligence and the future with AI. I want to understand how AI and technology is being used in airline industry. And all of these have got some great pros and great cons, but from a CEO lens, what keeps you awake?
Yeah. Well, I feel that we're just beginning to learn this. And, what I'm finding is as leaders at JetBlue spend time learning about this, they come away incredulous at the opportunity. I mean, one of my team just mocked up a complete fake sales and marketing campaign based on AI. Right through that, videos and everything like that. It's clearly going to give us a lot more capability by making the process of booking and buying a ticket much easier. By when you have questions or follow-ups if something's gone wrong, as opposed to those chat robots that get really frustrating because they can't answer your question, like really answer the person's question as if you're talking to a human. We for years, we've had a venture capital business called JetBlue Ventures, and they've had some investments in this space. And we're going to continue to do more and learn. And I think I just hope we can get the regulation right, because I don't profess to know enough to know. And I think if I knew more about this, I would become very scared about the potential consequences.
Great. So Robin, in the last few minutes that we have, there are so many questions that I was just reading, trying to get a sense of it. So I'm going to paraphrase some of them and combine them.
Speed
round, but not quite, because I still want to get into a little bit of depth from the perspectives of a CEO and leadership-oriented questions. And I want to hear from you, what are some of the guiding principles you use when it comes down to decision-making at your level? Because chances are you have a great team, and many decisions that come to you are already going through a very rigorous process, and they haven't been solved. So what are the guiding principles you use to make those decisions?
I shut my eyes and I put a pin in A or B.
Boy, I thought I had patented that.
Yes, a great new management will come right in. I think the culture organization of JetBlue is very collaborative. Some people would say it's too collaborative, but aviation is a network business. Like, we all depend on each other. For an airplane to take off and land, 200 things have to go well. So whether it's me or whether it's in the organization, then clearly people have to work together and take decisions together. So we don't tend to be a company where sort of, Robin comes over the top and says, do that. On occasions you have to, especially if I feel something's kind of taking too long. These guys are laughing. No, I think at the end of the day, I think it's more about the decision-making culture of the organization. And there's always a trade-off. You can have very militaristic, command and control, make decisions quickly, but they don't always bring people with them. Or you can be collaborative, you bring more people with you, it takes you longer.
Great. So there is a question, of course, it always is there, about what is the best piece of advice you can give to a student? And let me add another question, part B, to it, and say, what is the best piece of advice you have gotten in your career?
That's a good question. In terms of the best piece of advice I've got, is when you're working in an organization, one of the questions to ask your boss when you're being interviewed or you're figuring out a job is, are you paying me for my opinion, or are you paying me to guess yours? In other words, do you really want to hear what I want to say, or are you just about having people that just say yes? And I've tried to be true to that, in terms of making sure that at the end of the day, we all have a boss, and if the boss wants to do something, and if it's legal and lawful, you have to do it. But you always need to make sure, if you don't agree, you explain why. And you try to put people in the organization like that. And then the best bit of advice I have is just be curious. I mean, I've come across so many people who just, they present something, but they don't really understand it. I think get into something, get passionate, get deep, really know it. And I think then not only can we coach and mentor people better, but we can be more effective at making decisions because we have, some grounding in the subject matter itself.
Great. So let me be respectful of time, but I still want to at least ask one more question of you. I want you to paint that picture of 5 years from now, what aviation would look like for the customer. What should we be anticipating, and what do you think are the challenges that you will face to be able to get us to that point?
I think, aviation doesn't change very quickly. I mean, the fundamental designs of the airplanes that we're flying today, like the Airbus 320, they've been around like 40 years. Airplanes haven't sped up, they've got slower. It's like cars, right, sitting in traffic. So I think the innovation isn't necessarily going to come in that part of the industry. I think it's going to come in some of the customer experience aspects, in terms of, we talked about AI earlier, but just removing some of the obstacles around travel, making it easier for people. When your flight's cancelled, having better technology that can book you on another flight, giving you real-time information when you're coming into an airport, how long the delay is in security, so you can actually plan ahead and do that. And I think that's where it's all going to be about making the journey for people more seamless. And I think that's where you're going to see most of the innovation. The other area is going to be, which is less public-facing, in the world of sustainability. It's extremely important, that industry. JetBlue is a global leader in sustainability and the growth of sustainable aviation fuels, to make sure that as airlines grow, they're actually reducing their carbon footprint because they're using fuels that have much lower carbon life cycle emissions.
Well, Robin, thank you very much for a very informative and interesting conversation. I would also like to thank all of you who have joined us today and invite you to a next session in George Talks Business Series on October 24th. We invite you to join us for a conversation with Nitin Natarajan, Deputy Director for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and William Chappell, Chief Technology Officer for Microsoft's Strategic Missions and Technology Division. We look forward to this conversation as well and hope you can join us then. Thank you very much for attending.